We need to be able to have conversations without feeling like we're going to say something that gets us thrown in jail because people happen to be offended. Skepticism. Do you know what you believe?
All right, guys, we are back with another Pangburn Hangout. Why am I not seeing my chessboard? Oh, let's see. Yeah, welcome. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe. Just going to turn this up a little bit. There we go. Please subscribe. Drop a like on this video. That would be sweet. Yeah, just jumping in for an AMA today. Ask me anything. We'll see if anyone stops by in Discord, but I'm going to get some chess rolling here as soon as I edit and fix this screen capture. No, I don't want it to capture that. I want it to capture that. Oh, did it work now all of a sudden? It did. It did. All right, new game. That should be good. Been on a bit of a roll lately with chess, which is good. Getting back into it. All right. What am I doing? I haven't even started a game yet. Alrighty. Yeah, I'm gonna take away. I'll take away that. For those of you who don't know, I am quite new to chess, really, compared to most of the people I play. Just kind of starting to get a hang of, and I mean new, just like I've only been really playing for about a year. I dabbled in it when I was young, but didn't really know what I was doing. I guess he didn't expect my pawn to f4. Or he just got disconnected. Oh, yes, very good. I'm going to do that, which might freak him out. Okay. Then we'll play. We'll go there. We're going to block up this side. Going to have total control. I love it. Okay, so now you got to move. You've been bested. If you move her back there, then you're in trouble. Red team's going down. So I'm going to get this early line with my castle here, which I do like. I do like the sliding ability. Is that what I want to do? You bet your stars it is. And then he might bring Queenie right down there, which is going to give me an opportunity to get my castle even into better position. All right. You want that position? I get it. However, are you really going to sacrifice the knight? Actually, yeah, I'm going to put pressure. Ooh, actually. Yeah, we'll do that. We're going to go with a check here, ladies and gentlemen. Yikes. Okay. I'll take 90. Okay, we've opened up that wall over there. Perfecto. Now, for... oh, yes, right. Putting pressure. Okay, cool. Now, his bishop's in a very powerful position. So I want to kind of clear that out. We did well on that exchange. Happy about that. He had to move there, so I'm going to take... isn't that something? Well, I think I want to get queen up here. Give some options. On the line. Oh, wait. Wait a second. We don't want to give Horsey that position. Interesting. Isn't that something? Yeah, I think we're going to go here. Why aren't I going here? Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. I've been listening again to A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Incredible book. You're going to learn something new every time you read that book. So oh. I see you shiver with anticipation. But maybe the rain was really to blame, so I'll remove the cause, but not the symptom. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were the candy man. Don't get strung out by the way I look. Don't judge a book by its cover. Ah. He opted to stick that there. Okay. Okay. I feel you. So I'm going to upgrade this horsey. Ooh. Damn. Horse sticks there. Yeah, I don't want to do that. That's protected. Well, we're going to bring the queen out. Right there. The winner takes it all. Victory, there's nothing left for me. Cards may throw the dice. Da dun 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 dun. Okay, now I really want to win this game because there seems to be a lot of thinking going on, and it excites me. I've been getting a lot of messages from people who are having a really hard time psychologically right now. My mission always is to get them in front of their doctor. Get them to the hospital. That's the goal. The goal isn't to try to convince them of some new great philosophy. If someone is talking about their severe depression, things like that, they need doctoral care. They're not in the repair stages. They're in the survival stages of what they're going through. So when it comes to our survival, the best people suited for that, for knowing what's best, is the medical community, medical professionals, doctors. And then when the repairing process begins and the sustainability process, then we can start engaging in the existential conversations, try to identify the problems, the process of therapy. Of course, there's art therapy. If there's not a discipline of philosophical therapy yet, there must be. Let's see what Google tells us. Hey, Google. What screen am I on? Should still be on the original. Okay, there we go. Philosophicaltherapy.com. What is it? Let's look at this. Okay, first we got to see what the move was here. Okay. Yeah. But this guy, interesting. No, wait, it's still good. Is it? Actually, what I really should do here, yeah, that's a bomb ass move. Although it would be nice to put that queen in danger right now, but now the first is to step up here to cover that, which is good. Move into a super position. Or should I be taking a piece here? Nope. This is going to be my move. Bazinga. All right, let's see here. Einstein said that we can't solve our problems using the same thinking that created them. Same thinking. Depends on what he means by thinking. Philosophical therapy starts by identifying I'm reading from philosophicaltherapy.com. Starts by identifying the thinking that gets us into difficulties and then explores alternative perspectives that can open up unseen possibilities and remove the obstacles that have prevented us from moving forward positively in our lives. Yeah. So this is basically, what I'm talking about. Look at that. Thoughts and ideas. Yeah, the ideological spectrum is a big part of this. This is cool. I want to get the creator. Okay, I'll be sure to contact her. Perfect. Yeah, I have so many questions. I want to delve into this. Cool. This has been Research Hour with Pang. Are you feeling in Pang? Okay, so you want me to go there, but Trav's not going to let you. Am I being set up here? And I'm sure he doesn't want me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Bazinga! What up, Bruce? Two. I'm not hearing Bruce. Oh,
What's up?
What up?
Just working here.
Oh yeah, cool. What are you working on?
Just garbage. Just working on some of the code for work here for deployments tonight that I have to do.
Nice. What does that mean? Deployments of?
Applications.
Oh, okay.
And changes, mostly remediation efforts for vulnerabilities. So I have to deploy them in certain windows because there's downtime for that.
Ah, okay.
So gotcha. I have to do it late at night. But right now I'm just getting things staged or ready or tested.
Cool.
And that means I'm up till 1 a.m, usually on Tuesday and Thursday nights, if that happens.
Damn.
Yeah, it sucks.
Long days, but
yeah,
those dollar bills, man.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's not worth it.
Right. Yeah, I get it. Do you own your own business?
No. Well, I do actually, but this work is not for that.
Oh, okay.
I do LLC. I have like an LLC for small consulting stuff, but that's been very rare lately.
Right.
COVID has everyone like hard to have me in their office or meet with people, and they're just not interested so much. And I haven't really been pursuing it heavily either because I've been so swamped at my regular job.
They tell you it's COVID, but it's really just the personality of Bruce.
It's probably true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was trying. My whole goal with my LLC is to do local business. I don't like to consult across the world with my LLC necessarily. It's so that I can meet people locally and do work in the local community. And that really hasn't, like, nothing's open.
Right.
Like even coffee shop stuff. There's no reason to have me do their networking or IT or other concerns because they don't have the expendable income or the customer base, to care.
Right.
Their point of sale stuff is mostly plug and play now with iPads. That's the way that goes. Mm-hmm. And even that's like people when that breaks, they just buy new iPads and then Comcast just sends them a new router and they just use that Wi-Fi. So that's not the kind of stuff that they typically ask me for. But yeah, it's just
interesting.
Sucks to not be able to talk to people or go and provide your services to them because they're not even open.
Yeah.
So that stuff sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
I think it's hilarious that, well, it's not hilarious. It's sad and ridiculous. But I saw Andrew Cuomo saying we need to open up like a couple of days ago in New York after he'd mostly been responsible for shutting things down for so long. And now it's like the timing is
getting to him.
Well, I think it's just like the timing is ridiculous. It's like Orange Man's gone and now we can open up. Yeah. Come on, dude.
Well, people have this feeling that Orange Man bad. Now it's like all of the world's, it's kind of like in a Disney movie. Once Gaston finally gets pushed off the top of the castle, oh, look, everything comes back like magic.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's all normal. Like there's no, it's not like people are poor and broke from COVID or anything else. Everything's fine. We're all cool. Business as usual. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just infuriating, really.
Yeah.
I find it immoral to have to tell people they have to wear masks in some unknown possible spread, like that you may have this problem, so you must wear this mask. I don't see how you could. You're basically painting somebody with some very unlikely scenario for the sake of your own virtue.
So this is part of the thing of I'm not convinced, and I don't think the scientific consensus is convinced either, that with a virus that spreads this easily, at least it hasn't been demonstrated that in fact we have the language has been rightly crafted. Let's try to slow the spread. It's an attempt. There are some psychological benefits for humanity for feeling like we are at least trying to do something for the senior citizens who are being killed quite easily by this thing, and the other small demographic of vulnerable people. But I think what we're going to learn from this is that payoff of us feeling like we're making a difference, kind of assuming that human beings can social distance on a global scale or even on a country scale. I'm not convinced that we can, because even in the most tight-knit, even in the hospitals, which I observed, the social distancing happening there really isn't either. When I look in the waiting rooms and everything, it's just, even in the clinical settings, this is a very hard thing to accomplish for a social species. So I think the approach to figure out the approach of figuring out who the most vulnerable people are to the pandemic when a pandemic does break out, and completely lock them down from society in a quarantine type way, where and lock them down and save their lives. If you're
you quarantine the sick or the risk. You quarantine the sick or the at risk.
Of course. And this is Sweden's approach, and it didn't have any serious extra amount of deaths or cases or anything like that. And I don't know how much Sweden has deferred from that recently, or what, if they stuck true to that policy, but that is, as far as I can tell, based on the evidence available and based on what I see in the scientific consensus, there's no good evidence that human beings can social distance. They try, and some people, it's like the vegan thing. Some people will be able to do it successfully because they can stand being inside a compulsion like that. But it's on paper and in a scientific model, it seems like an easy thing. Follow these rules and you are social distancing. Well, you're kind of, when you put that on a society, you're kind of presupposing that they can follow the rules. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, go to any single grocery store that's open right now and do some observation.
I agree. Yeah, and then especially if you start looking at, if you're going to start taking the distancing in a circumference, that never happens. Almost never does the 6 or 10 feet rule happen in the circumference around you. It's always, almost always is it a radius or maybe 270 degrees of that. It's never 360 because of the layout of these places.
Right.
There's no way that you could do that.
And there's some people who are breathing really, really heavily out there. There's some people that have quite, not so deep breathing. There's a lot of these variables, and like people coming in from runs and stuff. It's like there's a lot of these variables that are when you the only real way to social distance humanity, as far as I'm concerned, is true quarantine. Like you can't say like, oh, just make sure you're washing your hands and use this hand sanitizer and stay in this distance of the line. No, ma'am, you're a little too close there. No, sir. Guys, we're not. I guess we're gonna have to try to make these rules stricter. And it's like, okay, well, tell us what you want to begin with. You want people locked away from each other socially. So, if that's really what you are trying to accomplish, you kind of have to do what China did. It's like full quarantine, lockdown, locked away, and that's that. And then you have to ask yourself after that point, was it necessary for us to do this with the whole population, or was it more reasonable for us to do it with those who have a high likelihood of becoming seriously ill from this thing or even dying?
Yeah. I mean, there's short-sighted and there's long-sighted. I think where people get with that, they're like, well, in short-sighted, we're trying to stop these number of people of dying this year. Okay. But in the long-term view, what happens economically or mentally?
Yeah.
Or, and also interestingly is the flu numbers are so low. And what doesn't, now people are going to claim like, well, it's because we're distancing and wearing masks, so the flu doesn't transmit. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case any other location in the world. It seems to me that people are being chalked up to COVID in the event that they have the flu, because you could have both. And then PCR testing seems to be highly inaccurate when the number of cycles that are being run. And that's not me talking. That's like most people in virology or anyone that's used scientific studies around virus and vaccines. So
yeah. So the main thing with that is that you may find problems in the final sum, and this is why people shouldn't get too hung up necessarily on the final sum, unless, which sent the world into an absolute panic, like the WHO said that this was going to have a 3.4% kill rate, which we would be talking Holocaust mountains of bodies. Just picture the Holocaust. That's what that would have looked like. And that's why the world went into such a panic, and they need to wear that responsibility. Well, the thing is that doesn't it shine a mirror onto the power that entity would have on the society at large? Now it's kind of bad for them in some ways going forward, because I would think that the next possible endemic or pandemic could be taken lightly. If we're going to take their word for it at their knee-jerk reaction. You know what I mean? Well, I think it's a learning process. I think here's the fundamental simplistic way I can put what human beings are learning right now when it comes to these pandemics and things that could panic society. The difference of just delivering the true information based on the scientific realities of what's going on, and erring on the side of caution, like the Sam Harris's, the WHO started off. A lot of these thinkers are, we got to err on the side of caution here, guys. No, you cannot err on the side of caution. The panic factor when you do that is going to maybe rise. It's just a little bit more panic. A little bit more panic on a global scale is a fucking catastrophe in the suicide
it's a lot.
rates. It's a catastrophe in so many things.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah, you cannot take that impact lightly, like many thinkers have in trying to reason what's going on here. It's yeah.
I mean, well, I don't. Even if I still say that the soft not benefits, I would say the unknown or the more harder to quantify fallout is still much higher than we're ever going to know in the next maybe decade. It's probably 5 years of people that are affected by this. I mean, it goes all the way down to like the relationships that people create with one another. Like those relationships can yield such fruitful outcomes, and now they're stifled.
Well, yeah, and look, there is the other side of this coin as well. There is a lot of reporting of a lot of reconnecting happening through this, through this pandemic and through the social distancing methods that have been implemented. Like, people are reporting, I haven't seen this member of my family, I've seen them maybe 3 times in the past 10 years, but because of this pandemic, we are having this experience of feeling like we're kind of understanding the need that we had to be more familial. And that's kind of interesting. Like you would expect.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you would expect just the negative side of, I can't see my family. But there is also something to be looked at as to, okay, what demographic of the population has actually found this beneficial from a familial standpoint? Like, has it brought their family closer together in some instances?
Yeah, there's definitely some of that. I mean, people are forced to stay home. There's the flip side of that of people that have abusive homes.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, all of
domestic violence.
What we're outlining in our discourse here is that there is so much data that has to be analyzed, and it needs to be analyzed outside of anyone's social pressure to come up with this answer or what. I want to see the scientific reality and also a clinical psychological analysis of humanity done, and that sounds really hard to do, but I think if there needs to be post-COVID polling that we kind of preface with to humanity that please take this as seriously as you can. Even messaging like that when it comes to a poll, if we're trying to actually collect accurate data, we are going to see a bright picture. If we do this as kind of a global polling, constant polling, I'm not talking about just one poll. I'm talking about constant polling on the pandemic so that we can attempt to learn the psychology of the people rather than just, we got one poll out of Arkansas. We have one poll out of the Great White North up here in northern Canada.
Right.
We've done some polling with people down here at the BBC, and we have come to the conclusion. It's like, I want, perhaps the United Nations to, as a protocol, the United Nations post-pandemic, to do massive amounts of polling because the psychological impacts and how people carried themselves through this is of high importance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is weird that I don't know, man. That's a phenomena that happens outside of this scenario as well. The overblown statistics in small places. In this sort of, I've talked about this before. I don't know. There's got to be a phenomenon for this where somebody takes edge cases out in news stories and then amplifies them, and then somehow that becomes a part of like popular culture. And you'll hear different people say, well, they are doing this, and it's like a generic term to build up some sort of narrative they have because they saw one story that was blown up. I don't know what that's called, but there should be a term for it.
Yeah, it really is just ignorance.
Sure,
it's really just, people are ignorant on what data sets mean, and not just people, the people writing the articles. So people will have the scientific advisor for the this whatever news outlet, whatever online publication you come across.
Yeah.
And they don't even understand what the scientific method is, and they don't even understand what skepticism is. So how are you to interpret the data and deliver it without your politics or whatever getting in the way?
Right.
This is not it's not an easy thing to do if you don't understand skepticism. So
the easiest thing, I don't know, the way that I usually tell people this, take something that is said and then make it applicable to you in the same way. So for instance, like if you ever listen to a news story, right, and you say, you believe them pretty regularly, then you listen to a news story and they're talking about something you very specifically know, and you're like, wow, they were like way off on that, or they're the idiosyncrasies that they missed, or the whatever the case. And just now, the rest of the time that the news is reporting, they're just as inaccurate on everything else. You just don't have the background.
So yeah, and look, and let's not get cynical about this. There are great resources out there that are almost always going to be right, because they have skeptics and people who are literate in the scientific method operating. They feel like they have a duty to their subscribers to not have them reposting their bullshit when it wasn't fully understood when they said it was. And some things I'll point out, like when it comes to the aspects of reality, or the Richard Dawkins Foundation, the Center for Inquiry, the National Geographic, like a lot of these are companies are set up in a way that they don't want to be embarrassed by being wrong on something. It's
inevitable, though. I mean,
it
you're
is
going to be
inevitable
wrong.
that mistakes will happen.
Yeah,
of course.
Or mistakes, or even just changes. That things have come along and new things come to light. I mean, that's pretty normal.
Yeah, no, of course, and that's in. Look, that's what science is. A lot of people think that science is this fixed thing that you need to worship if there is a thing as.
Well, yeah, I find it interesting. Somebody the other day was talking to me, and she was like, "Well, you obviously." She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to someone else, and said, "You obviously don't believe in science." And I was like, "Hang on a second. Belief is a silly word here, and if you have belief in science, you might want to check your presuppositions on that, because belief in science means nothing. There are no beliefs. We're talking about repeatable, testable scenarios here, not your belief.
Yeah,
and that's ridiculous.
I think what someone could say is that I believe in the experience accuracy of the scientific method. That's a better way
but that's not what they're talking about, because these people aren't even applying the scientific method. So they're using they're smuggling in science to basically fill in their own narrative when they don't actually have a coherent thought about the narrative. It just feels good.
Right, I hear.
It's easy. It's easy to make the case that for instance, you could possibly make the same case this person's making, but they have no foundation to stand upon, and so they've come to whatever they've come to no differently than somebody that actually hasn't researched another topic or just holds beliefs. So they've come to the conclusion the same way somebody else does, based on what they consider a belief structure, and that's not science. That's not even that's not even fair. You can't do that to people.
Yeah, I think the problem is most people just don't understand. Like, the scientific method is not. It's not like a. It's not like a truth. It's not like an absolute truth machine that a lot of people think it is. Even though we have some, scientific theories that are so as close as you can almost get to 100% certainty. But people need to understand that every theory is a working theory. Every answered question is a working answered question. It's not this principle set in stone. We come up with principles that work and that they work demonstrably, but people need to understand that skepticism. This is why skepticism ought to be, the singularity of your being, where it questions and continues to questions process and all kinds of stuff. Not in a cynical way, but just it's there. It's always questioning and continuing to question. It's the mechanism we use to separate bullshit from reality. So it's as simple as that. But people complicate it. People complicate the scientific method to mean, okay, this is, say we get a demonstrable fact out of science of things that happen. Let's say the identification of new particles. Okay, we categorize it, we label it, we have a theory for why those particles exist. We have the observations. Here we go. Voila, we've experimented. Rock and roll. We have a working theory. That theory is not there to say this will always be the way we understand this thing that this model's been built around. No, it's not there for that. It's the current, based on the evidence of reality, it is the best model currently to describe what is.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. It's the only way to describe what it is, at least as far as if you're going to make claims about what is across all spectrums of reality, or at least tangible material science.
Sure.
You're only going to be able to do that with testable, repeatable hypotheses.
And sometimes we will, in, let's say in theoretical physics, there will be an equation, a predictor equation written about what something we predict. And then, of course, once we develop the instruments in which to measure these things, then all of a sudden we're like, oh, voila, there's the the brilliance of math prediction in play here. And look, we predicted this 25 years before we were able to even measure it, and it worked. And so we build these systems that have, predictable qualities, which are the kind of systems we want.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah.
It's a tough place that we're sitting in, where you have people that have agendas, but you also have more. So it's interesting because you have more scientific data available to you as people are more interconnected and as technology has made it easier.
Of course. Yeah.
But unfortunately, you have the ability for people to use that for their own agendas easier than ever.
Well, the amazing thing that only works against ignorance. So, and this is why I'm like, someone with a solid foundation of skepticism will not be tricked by these turds that try to use these findings as, with some kind of political angle, or, some kind of, what do I do here? I didn't want him to do that. Yeah, some kind of political angle of, just wanting to make activism happen in the forestry industry or whatever, Yeah,
well, the thing is, like, it's hard because people assume that scientists are robots. Okay, so they're not. But and even people also assume that the collective brains of all of the people using science are robots. They're not. So there's some bias in the people that are performing, and there's some bias in the group of those people, and that's totally okay. But what's not okay is to think we have settled this based on consensus, and then also as a result of that, we must implement these policies that these people feel because it feels like the right thing to do.
Well, because I think we can go a certain length in wanting to maximize human well-being through the process that you just described, but there needs to be a check-in with with morality, right? It's like this can be, and it is part of my subjective moral system to use the scientific method to measure well-being for humanity, but that's not the full moral spectrum. It doesn't cover the whole thing. So there is elements of needing to check in with our moral foundations, and we can't forget that.
Right. Yeah, it's incredibly easy for people to cherry pick study for their feelings-based agenda, which is like that's the most dangerous in my opinion.
Well, yeah, definitely. People, anyone who's coming to an agenda with coming to science with an agenda or anything like that, it's not. They're not doing. They're not doing science. You need to come at it with just like, okay, I want to know what's going on in reality, and let's look at the data, and let's look at some ways that we can describe this with models.
Yeah, all of the time. Well, not all the time, but I hear this often, and then I hear people throwing, "Oh, they're not doing science," and then you have people saying, "Well, you're just not allowing them in because you're pulling the no true Scotsman fallacy or having some sort of exclusive club for your science-based reasoning." And it's like, well, you have to call a spade, and if somebody's not actually doing what should be done, then that's the case. I don't know, man. I think that it's a joke. I think that people are utilizing these for their own needs, and we've seen it happen with this pandemic because we've taken marching orders from centralized entities based on what people would consider quote unquote science, and all of the science has continued to unfold and show that we've been in economic and lockdown turmoil for mostly political reasons.
Yeah, see, I don't see it for mostly political reasons. I do think it comes from a good place of feeling like with going through these social distancing measures, if people get lucky and there is a pocket or area where people happen to have tripped onto social distancing properly, which I think you'll probably find some cases of that, you'll actually have saved some lives. And I think that's kind of the hope and dream. So yeah, I guess I don't, I think the politics of the people who have this kind of wishful thinking, are likely going to be people on the, well, they likely won't be conservatives, because conservatives want to conserve what's working, right? And it doesn't feel like things are working properly when you're in a pandemic. And conservatives want us to be operating as close to we can as normal, the status quo, in order to, get things back in order.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't this working?
Well, I think the problem is that there's a difference between them, the acceptable risk and unacceptable risk.
Sure. Yeah. And those are conversations and this is why I've always said, we need to take measures within reason, and people think that social distancing is reason, but I would say, show me examples of people doing this properly outside of actually forced quarantining them.
Right. If you want, and you have a point. You have a point. If you're going to say social distancing works and you want to do that, we have to force it. Otherwise, it's a joke.
Yeah, and honestly, all I have to do is go to the closest malls or grocery stores, and I mean, I started doing it to begin with, just to like to document how bad social distancing is. Like even when like security are in grocery stores making sure it's happening, it's like people still are not doing it. It's like this person's grabbing this bag of rice, putting it back because they had just been rubbing their face. I can see the transfer of COVID-19 happening in front of my face, but potentially. So it's like, I understand the dream and the model of social distancing and how it does work if you can get people to social distance, but you cannot presuppose that we can get the social ape to social distance. I'm talking like, it's not just a Vancouver problem. I've done some traveling around here to just watch people, and these are in the most, I would say, liberal parts of, kind of from a U.S. perspective, the most liberal parts of Canada that I can think of, down at the Whole Foods store, down at,
of course,
at all these places where people are taking the utmost precaution, where the germaphobes go. And I see it, I look at it, I see just like, and I equate it to veganism. I think there are biological entities that can take on veganism, that can human biological entities that can take on veganism as a diet and live with that sacrifice. And just like social distancing, I think there are some human beings who can nail that down and they can social distance. But just like veganism, I don't see it as a normal thing that the average population can pull off. The evidence of reality tells me otherwise.
No, I don't disagree. I see that too, and I live in a relatively conservative area, but it's also very small. So,
right.
I push the envelopes too all the time, and I'll just go in places without masks. I don't care. I'm daring them to tell me to put it on. And when they do, then I might put it on. Right. But for the most part, I don't, and the case rate may be higher in some scenarios, but the death rate is the same, if not lower than ever. So, I mean,
so why, what do you feel when someone tells you to put a mask on?
Oh, I just feel that there are two things I feel. I feel that they are following orders from those on high in which they don't fully understand, and they're afraid because they don't want to be blackballed or scarlet lettered. And then on the other side, I also think that people think they are actually doing something to help people, and they're getting their bumper sticker for the day by telling me to their gold star of the day by telling me to do the right thing, and I don't believe that's the right thing. And I would like to smile at people and see other people smile at me. And I think that's the way we're supposed to live. And if I can't live that way, I don't want to live. I think it's insane. I can't interact with people without seeing their faces. That's a terrible way to live. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. It sounds like politics is a big part of that. You kind of feel like a political agenda is being pushed when someone tells you to put a mask on.
Well, there's no other way people would. There's no other way people would come to this. Yeah, there's no other way people would come to this decision to do it all of a sudden if it weren't from some centralized entity on high.
Okay,
I don't believe that this is happening through like natural courses of social pressure. It's coming through centralized data coming down with mandates and fear and jackbooted thugs with guns threatening to shut your business down.
Yeah, but what about the scenario I brought up when there are people out there that think that, even if we can save a handful of lives by social distancing in the country, and again, I have to say social distancing with a quote on either side because
they're not doing it.
Yeah. Well,
they can't.
I would say generally they're not doing it, but they're trying. So I think the feelings of government is that the attempt to try to save lives, even though we suck at it, it's demonstrable. We might get lucky in saving some lives.
Yeah, but by doing it, right? That's my point, is we might get lucky to possibly save some lives. All of that is extremely suspect, and I'm not willing to give up liberties or even social norms to do that. We got to the difference between you and let's say the stereotypical liberal is thinking with this thing. They think that they're happy to give up their liberties for the time being, of course, only if there's a belief that this can make a difference, which it can in a scientific model. So staying in your home every day, right? Like never taking a car trip ever.
Well, that one is
even
like
higher.
if you never want to get into a motor vehicle accident,
and you
never get into a motor vehicle, I mean, you might get hit by a car, but I'm talking about
it's very rare
as a passenger.
You're never gonna get hit. You'll never be in a motor vehicle accident and if you also never go in a place where there's more than 6 people, you also might not get a disease.
And
but that ain't living.
Yeah, and if you never have sex with if you always have sex with a condom,
you'll never have a baby.
You'll never get an STI. Really.
Very true. Probably. I mean, it's probably extremely rare to imagine.
And I mean, I'm being a bit facetious, but I mean, like, if you never do X, X will never happen. We can apply that across the board. But this is why I was saying earlier, Bruce, that when we get these models in place of how we can make a difference, we must look at what I would call the pleasure drive of humanity and how this uprooting is going to affect us. How many suicides did we cause?
I mean, like we said before, how many relationships have we stifled? Potential relationships or any other discoveries.
And then like I said, Bruce, on the other hand, we need to quantify how many families did this really bring together in a meaningful way that will serve them for the rest of their lives. And how many families, new relationships
were
created. Hurt. But I'm talking about the positives, right? Because I think it's important for skeptics to make these two lists, because we can get absorbed by.
Well, this kind of reminds me of like, do you remember the Jordan Peterson thing in Canada, and he was talking about the bill that actually wasn't as bad as bad as it claimed to be, but he was worried about this slippery slope.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing a lot of conservatives are on. And the slippery slope of mandated forced social experiments like this are not something we're willing to take. And I think I'm not even a full conservative. Most conservatives throw me out of the room. But I think that's really what people are talking about, because throwing the mask on or social distancing in most scenarios would be fine, with the exception, of course, of the places that are completely closed, like concerts and everything else.
Right.
Those need to be open for people to be happy. But they would say, well, okay, so now it's this, what's next? And every time people say, well, you're just being ridiculous, that'll never happen. Well, I mean, it's happened though, and so that's really the I think the point. It's like, well, now we're not going to be able to do A, B, C, or D, and at one point, like even in the 70s, there was a quarantine on gas, and they're like, this license plate can come and get gas, and that license plate can on these days.
Right.
And that was probably a problem for people.
There was also black strength there, white strength there.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's true. Those are much more demonstrable than these sort of intangible numbers we're talking about here.
Yeah, the insidiousness of little who the hell is this? The insidiousness of little pieces of pricking and prodding at liberties is something that conservatives think a lot about. And I think this can get cynical very quickly if not done well, looking at the positives of the things that they see rolling out as well as the negatives. And that doesn't mean you just automatically adhere because there's positives. I'm talking about sitting in the center of the black hole, which the political silence, the political noise should be zero, and just look at the facts and just look at the facts of reality and how they're playing out, and and be okay even rejoicing in the positive aspects of something that you think is mostly entirely negative. For instance, Bruce, I would say if you find yourself in a position where you can experience joy in the families that have, if they come out and say, we have this whole way that we handled this pandemic, we have everything to thank it for bringing our family together. There is, I think, an emotional reaction to say these turds should have just been able to do that beforehand. They didn't need a damn pandemic. If
well, I would say, together. That's probably true. Yeah.
But I think if we're failing to bask in their joy a little bit, even if it stands up against our, let's say our political or moral position, we may.
Well, there's always a bright side. I mean, it's good. You can see the bright side of a lot of scenarios. I mean, I don't. There are not many things where you couldn't see the bright side of it. Maybe the Holocaust would be one of the harder ones to see the bright side. But even that, I'm sure that somebody somewhere can give a bright side argument. And so that's what you're doing. And I think it's okay. I'm not disparaging anyone that seems to have had a better outcome because of this. But they've made the best of it. And everyone's going to make the best of it until there is no best left. And then there has to be people that check and balance any sort of mandate. You have to say, sorry, folks, we're not going to do this.
Yeah, and I'm just talking about the philosophical approach to these things, that even if the what's being said seems obviously wrong, I think to better understand the wide spectrum of what it means to be human, or the wide spectrum of humanity, trying to sit in that black hole singularity of no sound, no nothing, and all you're hearing is just in a vacuum their joy. I think there's something enlightening about understanding your opposition in that. Scott, how's it going?
Oh, hey, Scott. Scotty don't. I don't hear him.
Scotty, no. Scotty didn't love me.
I don't hear him.
How about now? Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
How's it going?
I just said, hey, what's up, man? How you guys doing?
Good.
All right. Just hanging out.
I was just listening here. I was gonna make the point too, though. There are times when people have lost individual rights and freedoms. That doesn't mean it's necessarily gone forever. I think a good example of that could be like Japanese internment during World War II. People went crazy, like, oh, we got to lock them up, and then after enough time, like, oh yeah, we should have done that.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, there's and I mean also like I don't like to compare this to the internment camps, but at the same time, like it's got a fair point. You could probably say people are being held against their will in some way, but you could also make that argument almost every day because, like, you can't necessarily just drive on the sidewalk and beep at everyone to get out of your way. You know, so there's some of that, but we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, try being on the coast of Texas and walking into a gas station with no flip flops on. they will get on you. That's a big one down there.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like everyone? You got to wear flip flops because that's just the way it is.
You got to wear flip flops because I think there was people probably started getting like all these really bad cases of athlete's foot walking around barefoot, something along those lines.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's like the point, like, where are your goddamn flip flops?
Yeah, it's no shoes, no service. I'm actually curious about the study on that. Like, I'd be very curious if people didn't have shoes, right, and they touch the same area as somebody else without shoes. Do they actually get athlete's foot themselves, or is it just gross to look at? Because there are places all over the country, or the world rather, where people don't wear shoes anywhere.
Gross to look at. We can be sure of that.
Well, yeah, but it's gross to look at people in sandals. But if you go to any tropical island in the world, it's nothing but disgusting feet everywhere. So I don't know. Yeah. I feel like that no shirt, no shoes thing is mostly a cultural, like, we just don't like looking at your dirty feet, dude. Because people are buying food here and we don't want to see it. There's a guy we're trying to buy some fried chicken here in South Texas outside of Galveston, and I can't want to look at your feet. I'm not going to have an appetite anymore. I think that's really what they're worried about. But as far as like the skeptic brain in me is like, I really would like to see the evidence on whether or not you transmit anything at all to anyone if you don't have your shoes on. Because you know what I mean?
I don't know. I guess like me thinking about like coming from like the world of being like in like an MMA gym or something like that. People get herpes all the time from floor mats and shit, and like when you go on the shower.
Yeah, they do. They get herpes and staph.
Yeah, because I mean, there's like 15 different types of herpes. Like.
Yeah.
Chicken pox is herpes. There's it's basically a type of herpes that just happens to like wrestlers or people who are like on mats and stuff.
But here's my thing though. The only people that no shoes would affect is those other people not wearing shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is really moot. Because if you're not wearing shoes, you've assumed this risk here, sir. It's not up to us to mitigate the risk of your stupid decision. You've decided to not wear shoes. Am I right or wrong, though?
Yeah,
Have you not decided to not wear shoes? We're all wearing shoes. Yeah. You're not wearing shoes. You're going to catch everything. That's why I wear shoes. Like, I feel like that's the argument to make.
Do you guys know what hookworm is? You ever heard of hookworm? It's something that affects people in like Georgia and Florida.
Yeah, it comes from water.
Yeah, and people get it from walking around barefoot.
Oh, damn.
And it's crazy. Like it's a really weird fucking infection because it actually makes people dumb. It actually like over time, if you don't take care of it, it like degrades your brain functioning and stuff. Like,
I think it comes from the Mississippi River Delta or that area, right? It's only in that area of the world, I believe.
Yeah.
It's like a parasitic worm or whatever that only comes from that part of the world.
Yep.
But even so, wear some damn shoes.
Shoes. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like we're not walking around without shoes.
I think also with like, a specific store like a 7-Eleven too, I think I think you're right about like the cultural aspect of it and them being a company, they can say, hey man, you got to wear your shoes to come in here, period.
Yeah. And it's a look thing. It's not a sanitation thing at all. That's okay. We can make that argument all along. I don't want to hear the argument of keeping people safe though. And that's what I'm talking about with things like COVID. It's like, keep people safe. It's like, no, it's okay to tell people we have preference. It's totally fine. It's okay. If we prefer you to wear a mask, I don't want to see your ugly mug. Okay. But let's not pretend we're saving the world. You know what I mean? That's the joke of it. Because everyone gets this bumper sticker sort of attaboy for doing what they thought was like, I helped today. You know what I mean? Like the shake and bake commercial, and I helped. Like that. That's what they're doing.
Yeah,
Bruce, the part of this,
I think if there was a way to segregate those groups, though, so like if you had 100% sure way of saying, okay, people who don't want to wear masks or do these things, if we could 100% segregate them, so they could not come in contact with, somebody who might have a 75-year-old grandma that they take care of, that
the grandma's got to be by herself and quarantined, and anyone interacting with that grandmother in a pandemic should be in full hazmat. I mean, that's what you're gonna have to do.
Yeah,
it's your responsibility when dealing with that older person, not my responsibility because of your responsibility. It's not like I don't have to then take your burden onto me because I may indirectly affect somebody else whom you should have been doing and taking the measures. So who we should be shaming at this point are not me. It would be the person who's not keeping their sick grandmother at arm's length or with a hazmat suit or whatever the case might be.
I agree with that. The one thing earlier, Bruce, with someone who you mentioned, they put the bumper sticker on because because
Gold Star.
You said because they have an illusion. The fact is though that although the plausibility seems to be a lot lower than we would hope for on the efficacy of social distancing, not the model of social distancing, which works great, but the human being's ability to carry out the model, we can say that person may have, and it's interesting, you start seeing the scientific community stop in their messaging, at least in the stuff I see in articles, they stop saying, you will save lives by putting this mask on. This was the radical language that was started with. But then the graduation happened when all the skeptics and thinkers started weighing in saying, don't tell people they will be saving lives. They may be saving lives.
Yeah.
The bumper stickers should say, I may have saved a life today by my decision to wear a mask. That's sound. That's fine. And the difference is, Bruce,
but even
between
that is
you
minimal, dude.
Well, maybe not though. That's the important part of this, is that they might have actually saved a life.
Again, you're giving me the maybe not.
No, I know, but I'm saying
not a place that we should be in. You know what I mean?
I get. Look, I get that it's not. It's not like the. It's a weird thing for someone psychologically thinking that, okay, wearing my mask today, they want to say I am making a difference. Not necessarily. They're not necessarily making a difference, but they might be making a difference.
Dude, that's
you know what that
world. Do you understand we're living in at that point? We're living in that sort of weird reality. Yeah, what's that?
Is the Brett Weinstein thing. I think it's Brett might be Eric, where he's talking about where he's talking about it's useful to believe things that might not be true. Like it's like I might believe there's a snake in this grass where I'm walking, and I'm going to stay away from it. Now, whether there's a snake there or not doesn't matter.
Right.
If there was a snake there, I would be putting myself in danger by going in that direction. But by believing that there's a snake there, whether there's one there or not, I'm having a benefit by believing something that's not necessarily true.
And what we're wrestling with here, comes from our survival instinct, right? It really does come from this ancient thing of us erring on the side of caution. That is a very beautiful thing from a survival perspective.
It's those that don't err on the side of precaution that make the leap that move us forward.
Oh, totally.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
we can't be all stuck in the tent waiting for somebody to tell us what happened. Like, we got to move, we got to do something. Like, if we didn't attempt to dig a hole and chase an elephant into that hole and eat it, we wouldn't be here. You see what I'm saying? Like,
sure, yeah.
There's big scary animal. Like, we got to run away. Like, this is crazy. And the guy's like, hang on a second. This guy has no teeth. He's got no tusks.
So basically,
and he's slow.
Yeah, what you're really saying is from a Jordan Peterson, clinical psychological standpoint, the risk adverse people aren't really the game changers, and that's true. They're adverse to taking the risk, and I think that's rung true. All you have the odd people that will, and this is just a general rule, like much of psychology, but you will have the odd dude who stumbles upon an invention while he's just working his very, very safe, minimum wage job, and he's happy with that, and he's built his life around that. Nothing wrong with that. You'll have some people stumble along these things, but you're right. The guy who's willing to charge in to say, I think we can kill this elephant because I set up this giant boulder on the top of the thing. It can be done. Don't tell me it can't be done. These people are the ones the innovators that do push things forward. Elon Musk is one example. Modern
that guy
example.
Sucks.
Do you guys know the story of when they first
he's all right. Sorry, what's that story? You guys ever heard
the stories of when people first started trying to compress gas so they can?
You mean like in CO2 and stuff like that? Oxygen? Yeah.
Yes. This is all going on in like Europe in like the 1700s, and people were just doing it in their houses. A guy ended up blowing up an entire fucking block because he was like compressing all this gas, and it fucking lost containment. Boom! Just this massive explosion took down several buildings.
Oh,
that's
wow.
The thing.
Well,
like,
I mean, they do that with meth too,
Yeah, exactly.
Boil it, going through the vents up to the upstairs. It's like,
yeah.
I mean,
that's interesting.
Like, society needs both sides. We need people who are going to take the risks. We need people who are going to be like, hey, just hold on. What's sort of interesting to me is the people who historically are like, hey, hold on, I've been conservatives. So like typically in the past, it would probably have been conservatives being like, hey guys, we need to take these precautions. Let's put on masks. Let's do all this kind of stuff. And it would be the risk takers who'd be like, oh, we don't need masks.
Yeah,
it depends on how it's done, because that's where it depends on how it's done, because how it's done from a centralized entity or not, whether there's autonomy involved. It is interesting though that you say that, because in the 90s, the conservatives were the stuffy ones when it came to speech and stuff like that.
Yeah, well,
it was like, these black people are terrible. Why are they on the radio?
Yeah,
stuff like that. And now it's like the other way around. It's like, what? Why are you in inflammatory language against trans people? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, what? Where were you in the 90s?
Yeah, these swings happen a lot.
Those people in the 90s weren't even a glimmer in their father's eye, though, probably.
No, but that's not true, though. That's not true, man, because if you look at some of these people that are old, they're older than you and I. We're talking about 50-year-olds, boomer types, and even like Gen X, rather. Gen X is probably fairer. They're like Gen X types that are like super liberal. They got like Bernie stickers on their car and go green knapsacks. And they're like, they weren't hippies in the 60s because they were too young, but now they're freaking hippies in the 2020s. But in the 90s, they were like in college, and fucking that kind of thing, wearing Jordache jeans and stuff.
Jordache.
You
know what's really fascinating me? Like recently, I've been seeing I come from a hunting family, but the hippies, not only the hippies, but the hippie women are finally understanding the environmental purposes of hunting. They are hunting. They're skinning deer.
Oh, right, because of the wildlife management stuff is actually green.
The wildlife management, like conservatives have been saying this for a long time. Like, I don't like and it's funny, and this goes both ways on the political spectrum, of course. But this one is so fascinating to me because I grew up seeing the hippies protesting hunting and talking about how terrible it is and talking vegan stuff all the time. But now I'm seeing all of this video footage of these like hippie girls with like white hippie girls with dreadlocks shooting their first deer and skinning it. Like this kind of crap. If you would have said this like 20 years ago, this is a joke. No one's going to believe that will be happening. That would literally be the brunt of the joke, the payoff at the end.
Yep.
But this is how society, like, and there is
Ever
some
evolving.
utility to having these differences of political and social opinions, and human being, and it's great because skepticism always wins out if you look through history, which I'm always happy to see. It always does, even though there are dark ages, we find ourselves out of them. But yeah, man, it's just some of the emergences in society and social constructs that I've seen are just like, they fascinate me to no end. The change
It
that's
really
going
is
on.
because things flip flop all over the place, and like back in like another thing back in like the early 2000s, there were not many conservatives that you can find who were anti-vaxxers, and we all rightfully look down on these people like they're fucking idiots.
Actually, the
Like,
leftist
man,
sort
all
of
you need is some
liberal hippie
crystals.
was. Wasn't
exactly.
the leftist
It's
liberal
like-
hippie the anti-vax type? And they, like you said, like the crystals
Yep.
and the naturalists and stuff.
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
conservatives were like, hey, how about we stay alive here, and
Exactly.
conserve, conserve the
that's-
family.
Isn't that yeah, like these sways into and it's even funny, like you see that some turds from QAnon Trump supporter types, those those people are going to be acting like Antifa out there. You can just see it written in the sand. It's like they're going to be out there thinking that they have some godly message from QAnon and they've connected all the patterns. And today is the day we overthrow the Capitol. No, you
Have you ever
loser.
listened to Ali Akbar and him talking about I've received these divine revelations, and it's like, no, dude.
No, you didn't. That was your own imagination
down there,
coming up
buddy.
with stuff again. Just like it came up with this sentence.
It's weird. Well, I mean, hopefully it might be a good thing that, that sort of migration of a certain amount of that thought will come to an end when both sides embrace it, everybody can see it's bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be like,
Oh,
okay,
that's true. Yeah.
Well, the utopia I see for humanity is one that is, everyone has at their, not just their nucleus, at their singularity of their humanity will be skepticism, and it will provide so much more laughter for humanity, so much more not taking it so fucking seriously, life, and it's just like, oh my God, this is all it takes. I need to come up with a moral system. I need to understand, how we determine what is going on in reality. And then I have this mechanism of skepticism, just checking all of that. And then the most fun part that relates to what I call the pleasure drive is the scientific and artistic inspirational meters that really make life pleasurable. And that just applies to fucking everything. And the point of life is to keep those things high in those inspirational meters high in a moral way. That's consistent with your moral foundation. And that doesn't mean that there isn't room for upgrades in moral foundations, or even upgrades in determining what is, because we might come to the discovery one day, we might actually find the edge of the cosmos, and we'll find the matrix controller. It's not plausible, but it's possible. So it's just like not taking it so too fucking seriously, people, and enjoying the pleasure that is existence, that living is its own damn reward.
I think something else that also needs to be realized is that everything is not the end. Everything that happens isn't signaling, oh, everything's fucked now and we're screwed. I remember like talking to my friends who were like pretty hardcore liberal, and they're like, when Trump got elected, they're like, oh,
I need to kill myself.
Nothing is going to happen.
Well,
and
dude,
now
we had that
all my
guy.
friends who are like hardcore, like conservative. I'm like, you guys, nothing is going to happen. It's going to be okay. It's the exact same thing. Just it's two sides of the same coin, And if you're getting worked up,
I was actually talking to someone. If you want to talk about like the actual fallout of Trump, if you're going to say like the tangible things in the United States, these people that were worried about, they were supposed to be like trans people and gays being dragged out into the street and killed if you listen to them. We were supposed to have like people on a list. We were going to drag everyone out that was Mexican and had brown skin. We were supposed to have walls with electric fence on them, like Ren and Stimpy, like that kind of thing.
On the electric.
Yeah, like that was gonna. And now it's like the only thing that actually happened was the people on the people on his team got so pissed that he getting reelected for more stuff to not happen.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and so the only thing that actually happened was he was used very well as political fodder, I think. And so, like, there are a number of things in terms of the Middle East that people could say happened, but they weren't necessarily reported on in the sensational way, like the thing that he did with the trade agreement, the stuff in North Korea and going over the DMZ. Like, let's just think about this for a second. If that were Obama or even Bush now, if he was in North Korea and went across the DMZ and shook hands, that would be like a banner year. We'd be like beside ourselves. Yeah. But because this guy from New York who says a lot of stupid stuff did it. Oh, not you. It kind of reminds me of a bit that Patton Oswalt had back in 2004 or so. And he was like, so Patton Oswalt had a bit in about 2004-ish, and his bit was, Edgar Allan Poe, he was thinking about the theory of relativity like 50 years before it actually came about, because he was like, hey, the stars, like maybe they're twinkling less because they're farther away and we're closer to the Earth. And then they were like, no, not you, drunky McChild fucker. You don't get to decide that. You don't get to figure that out. We're not listening to you. Let's go write some more poems about your lady and your pants and weird incest that you have. You don't get to decide that the theory of relativity is plausible. And we had to have a guy that we liked come along and say that. And I think that's the same thing with Trump, man. It's the same thing. People don't like him, so they're not willing to take his theory.
This has been the BBC rant with Bruce.
That's definitely not on the BBC. Patton Oswalt used to be really funny until he went off the rails of lefty liberal land. His early comedy was hilarious. And that was one of my favorite bits, because he was basically saying, like, the ideas don't necessarily matter what they are, but who they come from and how they're received.
Yeah, it should be about ideas, It shouldn't matter if it's...
It should be, but think about that. How often do you find people biased against who's saying it as opposed to what they're actually saying?
I know, it's disgusting. You'll post,
and that's cynicism, I guess,
Yeah, it is. It's 100% cynicism and ignorance. Just not understanding what information is. Like the information is valid, or it's not, regardless of who has said it.
Well, I think sort of the interesting thing about that too is, like, you could probably make the same claim with Obamacare. When Obamacare was first passed, everybody's like, this is horrible. We got to fight against it no matter what. When Trump comes in, the popularity of Obamacare at that point was too much that they couldn't overturn it. I mean, they would have torched their own political aspirations if they had bombed out Obamacare, because at that point, a certain enough amount of people, even on the right of the political spectrum, were like, oh no, well, I like this now.
Yeah. Well, and this happens. Like, people and political figures just need to stay away from Trump. It needs to be a thing of the past to try to demonize people as opposed to engaging in the war of ideas. Like, engage in the fucking war of ideas.
That's a problem.
And I know a lot of them don't even have the proper tools in order to do
well,
that.
You can't engage in the war of ideas with... you can't engage in the war of ideas when modern universities are having what's whitelisted as a word. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if the term whitelisted is changed, actually. Because that's not a fair... You can't say black and whitelisted anymore.
You know what? I would say I can engage in that war. They're just not going to maybe like what comes out of my mouth. And that's...
Yeah, but you can't... I mean, there's engaging in the war, but, like...
People want to go and hide away.
You got to have enough people on the other side.
Yeah, if people want to go away and hide from big bad Trav because he's saying things that hurt my feelings, then okay, go ahead. But it's like, but you're right in a sense. Like, people need to grow a pair in this war of ideas and stop being such pussies.
Well, and also not thinking that anybody who has a different opinion than them on a political topic,
that the
that
world's
doesn't
gonna
make
come
them
to an
evil
end.
or
Yeah, exactly.
bad.
Exactly.
Or, I mean, they just have a different opinion. Like
Yeah.
even in the United States, like you could look at between conservatives and liberals, they agree on like 75 to 80% of everything.
Yeah.
And it's these handful of wedge issues that politicians have pushed because it helps fill their coffers for re-election. So they focus on that kind of stuff.
Well, I think sometimes that is the reasoning. Sure. I still think there are good people in politics trying to do good out there, but and people get quite cynical about politicians because they hear politician and it seems colloquial that you have to say politician, more like bullshit. But I think there are a lot of non-evil good politicians out there trying to make the fucking
preach
difference.
it. Ain't that the truth? How do you know when a politician's lying? He's speaking.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of the thing about
one?
politicians too. Politicians are just as flawed as all of us.
Yeah, that part bothers me when people don't do that.
I cannot cast a stone and say, "Hey, I've never done anything wrong or anything like that." I've never lied or anything like that to get what I want. I think it just comes down to we as a populace have to hold politicians more accountable when they do those things. And if we do that, I think we'll see that. Not do.
Yeah, you said.
I think we'll see less of the problems.
Look, man, I know I'm jumping in halfway through the conversation. Hello, gents.
What's up?
Hey,
dude, that channel you invited me to, holy Christ, dude, that was a fucking shit show.
I'm out of there. I'm out of all those places.
It's crazy.
What is it?
But Veritas.
It's just some crazy
Canadian Catholic, right?
Some crazy town.
That's philosophical checkmate.
Okay.
Yeah. So people are full of good ideas and bad ideas, and then the labels come after: Republican, Democrat, liberal, things like that. That's about all I need to take away from that, in my opinion. I don't think that if you start talking about party lines, then that person is probably not looking out for your best interests.
Yeah. Well, even I think even with like liberals and conservatives, you'll have people who have the exact same opinion, but they get caught up in that they got caught up in the label of an L or an R, and they're like, "Oh no, you're wrong," and they'll say the exact same thing, but just word it slightly different and be like, "No, it's totally different." No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the answer is just no. It's just not that.
Dude, I mean, that's why
you just got the question. You got the answer wrong there.
It's something I've done on this channel a lot when like talking to people. I'm like, okay, like things. I feel like things are going into circle. How about let's define the terms that we're using before let's try to go any further, because people are using different terms for the same word, and like things are just going past one another. And
yep.
Well, do we have to decide what terms mean? Like, why do we use these labels and terms? Why do we use broad labels and terms? They have utility. Of course they do. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, but I understand when you say these labels have become a crutch or a, or doing us a disservice. But they have utility because it's a way to get people into your tent on your side. It's a way to organize, and so, but it's also an easy way to straw man people and say, oh, well, you're just a Republican, which means you have all these things thrown onto you because we're labeling you that. So at this point, like Republican means like all the time I see a ton of posts now after the Capitol situation. It's like, how are these Christians going into the building and killing people and beating? Okay. Who said they were Christians again? Oh, you did. Oh, okay. They didn't say that themselves. You did. That, like all that sort of stuff,
Label bullshit.
Right. And the same thing goes for like, I've had to check my bias over the years because I've, constantly said, well, oh, you're a liberal. That means you just like killing babies. Oh, I get it. Yeah. And that's not true at all. It is true in some cases, but it's not true. And that's not fair.
Oh, you're progressive? Fuck that. Are you like civil rights? Well, shit.
Well, progressive is like, and then progressive has changed its meaning over the years, and so is conservative.
Yeah, you'll notice I treat.
You need a little bit of both.
You'll notice I treat Jesse Lee Peterson like Jesse Lee Peterson, not like a crazy pastor. I think that's the difference.
Well, if you met Jesse Lee Peterson at a coffee shop, you guys just started talking, would you treat him like a piece of shit?
No.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean. Like people, the internet is a bit to blame here for, and it's a blame. It of course it's how human beings use the internet. It feels like people use it as an excuse sometimes to dehumanize others and to not treat others like like human beings. Like I said about Jesse, he's a good example of people who just find reasons to treat him like a piece of shit, and he's a fucking human being, man. Can't stand that.
Well, I don't. The human being thing is not. Yes, I do like this whole we're all human, man. Well, that's not enough.
I agree, it's not enough, but I think
something.
But I think he gets the bare minimum from me moralistically, which is to maximize his well-being, and I just don't. I just see so many fucking just miserable people that push their miserableness on people on the internet just because they have access to it and it's easy. And it shouldn't be easy.
I think it's veganism, but that's a different problem.
Well, I do think a big thing with the internet, though, is anonymity.
Of course.
If you walked out onto a street corner and you were doing your proselytization, people know who you are. It's not like you're this anonymous person and you could make all these sort of fantastical claims about who you are, and a certain amount of people might just believe that, but if you were a guy who was standing on a soapbox and you could see you fucking pissed yourself earlier that day and fucking you smell of shit, people were like, oh, okay, yeah, let's not listen to that guy. He's probably got some other issues going on.
Well, I ultimately, I just think it's not, it's just people have not sorted out themselves. And then people start families and they think that the family's going to sort them out or their spouse is going to sort them out. I think it all roots from that fundamentally. And then you get people in these existences of relying on others. And then you get this strange combination, cacophony of people's issues playing on each other when there hasn't been enough focus on people calming, people replacing worry with care, because I think it's a fundamental thing that has to happen psychologically and philosophically within someone in order to reach a level of being able to move through life without worry, and that doesn't mean at all that you no longer care about things. That's crap. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that it doesn't manifest itself in the same worry that our panic structures are built on because of fight or flight that exists in us, because without fight or flight, this we probably wouldn't have made it.
Well, how much between, question for all you guys, how much do you think that is predicated on just this general idea of a loss of community? And I'm not saying it's left or right or anything. I think it's just more a nature of populations in cities getting bigger and people being.
I used to think that.
You know what, Scott? I think it's the other side.
I think it's having a tribe behind you that gives you this sense of power to attack other tribes, because you have people in your circle that you found across the globe.
Yeah,
on the internet, on Twitter.
I guess
like strength in numbers.
Fundamentally is from family. So I have a close family unit. But if we go back further in time, that family extrapolated out into a community. You know what I mean? So if we went back 2,000 years and you were, unless you were in Rome or something, but say you're a Pict in Scotland, they probably had very close communities even throughout all the families, and now just from the way things have gone, we have less of this sense of community between people who are directly around us. I think I have more of a sense of community here on this channel than I do with some people that I work with, like there are people I work with that I have nothing in common with, and I try to talk to, and
right,
it goes nowhere. But then I can come on here and talk with people, and like there is a community,
Yeah. Well, I think, Scott, what I want the human being to accomplish is the full out, maxed out artistic and scientific inspirational meters without engaging with a single person that this is possible. And you don't want to overblow those meters, but when you do invite other people into your lives with a spouse or children, you do give up aspects of those previous inspirational fillings, but you must replace. There must be an equal replacement in inspiration from the other people you are bringing into your life. And
because you're spreading it out.
Yeah, because you're spreading it out. You can't be running around. The thing I struggle with mostly in my life is being over my inspirational meters being overflowed, and that's not good. You can't focus on one damn thing. There's too much to be inspired by out there. It's not good. It leads to an imbalance in your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Not good. Not healthy.
Wolf, if you guys want to see something inspirational, I did make a post into the live Trav AMA channel. Very inspirational.
Well, let's see this.
Breakdancing dwarf.
Oh, is this the
it's like Bollywood stuff or something.
Yeah, dude, it's this is like one of the first like classic like YouTube fucking hits.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
I think I've seen GIFs of this. I don't think I've actually seen the YouTube video before.
Dude, he's so good. He's actually a really good breakdancer, man.
It's not bad. Well, midgets are people too.
Deafs.
Sorry, didn't mean to derail the conversation. Just thought a laugh might be.
Midgets are people. How come midget porn is always half off at the store?
Is it? I don't know, but that's funny. Do people still go to sex shops and stuff and buy porn nowadays? That has to have minimized.
Well, sex shops for devices, for toys, definitely. Yeah. That's a huge.
Yeah, I don't think they have like the Pee Wee Herman like fucking places anymore.
Although they, I love that you just called it Pee Wee Herman places, but these toy shops are crazy, man. And also in the toy shops, they will have some videos and shit, but people aren't there for those. People are consuming their porn, and mostly amateur porn, online.
Yeah, I would think that's why I would think so.
Like New York in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was like
just every sex shop, even Times Square, dude.
Sex shop.
Dude, Times Square was like a smut central.
So back in the day when I was fresh out of high school, cell phones used to just then start getting like spam calls, and there's nothing you could really do about it. So I used to answer the phone, hey, how's it going, Bob? How's your porn? Fucking midget porn half off. And the weirdest fucking response, like, sorry, I think I called the wrong number. You just come up with weird sayings as you answer. You better take me off your fucking list.
Dude, the glory days of the Jerky Boys.
Is Ed Bassmaster.
Yeah,
that's kind of his deal now.
Well, look at that.
I haven't seen him do like anything in such a long time.
Oh no, he's go to his channel. He's doing stuff.
Well, because I remember like he got like into a couple movies, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude, Ed's gonna be fucking breaking out," and then nothing.
He actually got a show on like some like CMT or something.
Okay.
Doing it. Yeah, for a little while there, but he's doing the same sort of thing, like crank call kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
does it in person now, right? Like
no, he's doing it, but does it on the phone too. Yeah, he does it on the phone too.
Would you just look at that? Would you just look at it?
Just look at it.
Look
You know,
at that.
When I see something like that, I just look at it. It's funny. He's from Philly, and his accent is spot on because he's from there. When it's so funny to hear him do the Philly accent thing.
When he does the football fan guy.
Yes, spot on, dude. Spot on. So There's like 6 million people like that over there in that part of Philly. You know, it's crazy. Dude, it's really funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that's sort of like that sort of crank anchor sort of stuff, whatever that is just dynamite. I love it. It's my favorite.
It's like got these couple Mexicans on the roof and they're hitting each other with these fucking hot mops, man. Now, all that old fucking Jerky Boy shit, man. I listened to those CDs just on repeat for like 3 years. Shit was great.
They were great. That was good stuff. I remember all that.
My name's Saul Rosenberg.
Yeah.
I've got these hemorrhoids.
It was okay back then to make fun of Jews like that. Like that was what they were doing. But now, no.
One of them was Jewish, though, right?
Yeah, of course. They both were, I think. They're from New York doing comedy. It's like, you know. If you're from New York and you're doing comedy, you're Jewish. Yeah. If they're not Jewish, they're probably Italian doing comedy. There's only a couple of Irishmen that come out of New York doing comedy. And then Bill Burr's not from New York. He's from Boston area.
Boston.
Yeah, that place. That's
Did you guys see his cameo on fucking Mandalorian? That was pretty awesome.
Nah, I don't watch the show, but I heard about it.
Yeah, he played this like guy who's he's a part of the Empire because it's a job, and he doesn't really give a shit. Typical.
That sounds great. Like he's the working man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. That's fair enough.
I thought I told you before I don't do that work anymore.
Man, so good. Huey, what's up?
Huey Louie. I don't know. He's not talking.
Nope.
All right.
And tried, buddy.
Yeah. He's having technical difficulties.
Scott, we should have a game after I finish this one.
Yeah, let me switch over to my home computer.
In other words, flip on that professional chess bot that you're gonna act like is you.
I think you're just a little bit toasty last time.
Oh my god, dude! I had a couple short glasses of bourbon.
Yeah, dude, last two times you played Bruce, like I beat Trav in like 5 moves in two games in a row.
But I can't play. Yeah, no, I can't play under the influence. I'm okay on weed, but if you guys haven't seen that clip, that was funny. Jesse Lee Peterson, I got him to talk about his first acid trip, his first acid experience.
Oh, that interesting.
Yeah, it was funny. It started off with him going, "Do you smoke pot?"
Yeah, I think my only real problem with Jesse is how convinced he is that he's right.
Well, and he blames women for everything. Like he just he does it. He doesn't realize that it's not clear what when it comes to that stuff, like the really inflammatory stuff. It's not clear to me what stuff he sincerely believes or if he's just trolling. Because because a lot of it in his demeanor when he talks about it, it seems like he's trolling. So I'm just like, well, how much of this is Jesse trolling? And that's something I find fascinating about him, because when I'm talking to him, I can almost see the switch when he jumps back to his safe script, because he's not an intelligent man. He's like a very low intelligence, but he's got some smarts. But I can see him, when he's in territory that he's not used to, which I think is also why he's really liked having a conversation with me, because I'll ask him something like, tell me about your your experience with psychedelics, or tell me about how you are artistically inspired. I don't think anyone's ever asked him that. So he does. So you get some genuine answers from the guy, because I have a deep psychological interest in Jesse Lee Peterson. It runs deep, man. I tell you, like it's the guy fascinates me. So, I need to move that first. Although.
Do you play, Bruce?
Yeah.
And I have a question. What is meat popsicle? What does that mean?
That's like it's like the pronouns, and it's a callback to The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis. And they say, "Are you a human?" And he's like, "Negative. I am a meat popsicle."
Yeah. Negative. Meat popsicle.
So it's kind of like the same thing. It's like, "Are you a woman? Are you a man?" It's like, "Nah, just call me meat popsicle." It's like the they, them, he, him, bullshit.
Got it.
So I'm just like playing off of that. And
it's all about the he says, she says bullshit.
Right.
There's got to be a parody to do with
Fred Durst is funny, dude. I don't care. It's hilarious.
That's the thing with that kind of stuff. Like, I'm never gonna do it, but I don't necessarily begrudge people that do it. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't like the flag that people seem to be waving. You get no points for that. Okay, it takes you 3 seconds to put it in your signature. You get no points. Okay, nothing. You're getting nothing from me, and you shouldn't get anything from anyone else. This whole like ally thing is straight up bullshit. Because ally means nothing. Okay, if you're going to say that trans people actually have a hard time, go be trans then with them and have the hard time. Then you might get something. But being a quote-unquote ally, you suck, okay? Yeah. You've done nothing.
Yeah, well, when you can even take like
You've
that.
done nothing.
Do you remember after Charlie Hebdo were on fucking Facebook, everybody had the fucking French flag superimposed over their picture? I'm like, well, what are you guys actually doing?
Yeah,
are you doing
nothing? French now, or is this all about being French? Like, it wasn't it about the individual, like the individuals who lost their fucking lives? God, people are retarded.
They are. They really are.
Jesus, that pisses me off.
It's just bumper stickers, man. It's all it's the bathroom wall and bumper stickers. That's what it is. It's people are trying to claim it to be more sophisticated, but it's not.
Well, but here's the thing, Bruce. We can't get too cynical, because there are pockets of the internet. There are pockets of these movements that are actually reasonable. Variations of the like the non-extreme versions, you know.
Oh, okay. I'm sure there are some non-extreme versions, but you're still not getting points from me.
No, and it shouldn't be about fucking points. It should be about going through the experience with your fucking name and saying, I'm this person and here are my ideas. Let's hear your ideas. Let's talk about it. That's this big scary war of ideas I'm talking about.
That I agree with. Yes.
You know, it's
well, that's why I'm a Christian diametrically opposed to most things on places on Discord, but I'm interested in talking about skeptical. I like the same skepticism that you approach like science or the world with, I approach the Bible with as well. And so it's encouraged in my walk of faith. And so it's like doing that, I think, is the sharpest thing Christians or anyone else could do when they're talking about their belief system. And they're not doing it. They're afraid. And that's sad.
Well, like going back to like the whole like being an ally kind of thing, something that always struck me as weird. I don't know if you guys ever heard the quote, 2 hands at work do more than 1,000 hands clasped in prayer. So you could have 1,000 people praying, but one person just actually doing the work to make it better does way more good than they'll ever do.
Right. Okay, this guy's allowing me to put him in check. Why? Just why?
All right, guys, I got to roll. I will be back a little later. You guys going to be on this evening about like 9 o'clock East Coast time, which would be 6 o'clock West Coast?
I might be able to hop on. Send a voice chat message when you're ready, and I'll see if I'm.
Okay, I'm just going to be working, doing deployment. If you guys are around, I'll see you then.
Cool.
Yeah, if you jump in, man, shoot me a message.
Okay.
I'll jump.
All right, see ya.
See you, man.
Later.
Thanks. That was Mr. Bruce Almighty.
Mr. Grimm.
Yes, sir.
Dude, that guy, who is it? Concrete? Holy shit, man. I jumped in when he was going off. Mm-hmm. But by the time he was done, I'm like, maybe I came in at a wrong spot because the last thing he said, I'm like, oh, that's reasonable. What's that all about? Is he just completely off the fucking board?
Oh yeah, dude. There's people that are just off the fucking board. It's great because I go in there and they're like, "Where's the rational, reasonable conversations?" I just invite them to this server.
Nice.
I mean, he was just—it's like, "Nah, motherfucker, nah, motherfucker, nah, fuck you."
Where was
fuck
this?
You. Like, holy
Where did
shit,
this happen?
dude! What is going on?
Was that
Veritas
here?
server.
Oh, okay, good. I was like, what the? That sounds pretty.
I would have muted him if it was on this channel. Like, all right, you're done.
You're fucking done.
No, you know what? It's open discourse, and I like forums that are like whether you're a fucking kid or you're 80 years old, man, come on and share your ideas, but know that you can be ridiculed.
You know, I guess it's sort of with something like that though. Like when you get to that point, it's destroying the conversation when somebody's fucking yelling like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, there's moderators to moderate, obviously.
Yeah,
people yell on that shit all the time, but like right now there's like 50 people, and sometimes there's 13 in one room, and there's like I don't know, like another like 30 in another room. So you can imagine a room of 30 trying to have an open, honest conversation. Most are muted and they aren't having a conversation, but a lot of side tangents. So it's just an open forum to share ideas, express ideas, ridicule ideas.
Well,
it's very healthy. I think it's awesome.
Well, that channel that I jumped in initially that he was in, what I saw was I tried to make a comment. I heard other people try to make comments, and it just came down to whoever was yelling louder got the floor. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to switch over.
Yeah. Or it could
I saw you switched over to another channel at that point.
Yeah. You can message mods. Tell them you want a few minutes to say something, and they granted. They silence everybody and let you speak if you really want to. I was just in a room before I came over here, and a guy was like, he wrote down 100 thought-provoking questions that are really have no answer. Like, should teachers have guns, or is socialism ultimately bad, or things like that. And it was just me, him, and like two other people, and he was just drilling me with like all these thought-provoking questions, and I was just giving my own honest answer and opinion on them, just writing down the answers. So just things like that, where it's just like you can have these little side tangents of people going to another room and just hash out really cool stuff. There's another guy that was like a complete nihilist, really negative person, and I was like, I went through a lot of depression in my life and stuff like that, and he's like, yeah, I'm going through that too, and we just had an honest conversation about it in another room. This is me and him, and I could just tell. So
that's sort of something this is something that I've thought about enough in my life about how emotion affects somebody's reasoning.
Yeah,
man. People try to treat these things like they're two different things, but like you said, meet somebody who's like deeply depressed, and their reasoning is going to be different based off that depression that they're experiencing.
Well,
which is
the most profound thing I've ever heard is obvious, and that is emotion is energy in motion. Anytime there's energy in motion, you have emotion, when it relates to the human body and the mind.
Energy in motion.
I know. I mean, it's very it's profound. It's not like there's a truth statement anywhere in there.
Yeah.
To understand.
Yeah, it's an artistic expression.
Yeah. We're all emotion. We're emotional creatures, man.
I mean, because that's the thing. Like, light is in motion. It's not necessary. It's not emotion in the way that people understand emotion. As like your personal experience or reaction to outside events. Like your grandpa dies, and like, of course, you're gonna cry because you have memories of your grandpa and you love him, and because to me, like, human emotion is a reaction, right? Is there any human emotion that's not a reaction?
Well, I mean, when we're talking about chemical, it's a combination of chemical reaction and neurological firing. So,
yep,
yeah, Yeah, it's all within the realms of within the realm of physics.
Yeah.
So definitely.
Yep. Because even if you're listening to a song or you're thinking of a poem, it's like this thing precedes you feeling an emotion all the time, no matter what. Even if like all of a sudden you just start crying out of nowhere, probably had something going on in your subconscious where it made you like, oh, you're thinking about grandma just died without you realizing it or something, and you're just like, oh my God.
Right.
And you become emotional.
Yeah, and I think there's a way, there's a way to train our hardware and software to coexist together in a way where, you aren't overcome by your emotional circumstance. That doesn't mean you're not allowed to get the full effect of that, but the way it manifests itself through art therapy, through philosophical therapy, through conversational therapy, all of these, these are the reasons why these methods work.
Yep.
So that the more we investigate and do with these things, I
do have a question for you. I remember I brought up something a while ago about like a feedback loop and your idea of, the hardware versus software. Software can have a feedback loop in a hardware. Have you thought about that anymore?
Well, I've, it's been a fundamental part of how I view, or let's say how I used to conceptualize consciousness as a feedback. Because if you think of it as, we're kind of projecting our own cinema out and we're experiencing it, then of course you have the feedback part is essentially what's coming out, what's being regurgitated. Feedback. Think of that process. If you want a little nod to what my second book is about, think about that process on the most simplistic level, like cell starting to self-replicate.
Yeah. Well, that's to think about, so you brought up the number 3, how you, if somebody asks you a number, you go with number 3 because that was the number you had on your jersey,
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. So definitely
so you have this thing that happens in your software, but it has enough of an impact that it does end up changing. So even subconsciously, right, you come up with that number 3 based off of this event that happened in your software.
Well, and honestly, the easiest way I can come up with to describe it is that it was more pleasurable for me in that instant, in that state. It's more pleasurable for me in that state to pick number 3 because it will give me some more relation to otherwise something arbitrary. And I think the pleasure drive will select those because of the pleasure feedback. So it's I think we can quantify and reason exactly why I chose that number 3 over the others, where because I'm not convinced, and even the uncertainty principle is people read this incorrectly to mean something that it does not. But the uncertainty principle does not escape determinism. It just doesn't.
No,
people,
absolutely not.
People think that it does. Even some of the most learned theoretical physicists spent most of their life misinterpreting the uncertainty principle, and they spent their whole life in quantum mechanics. But it's
I was trying to explain.
I lost it. Canadian
was
Catholic.
it Canadian Catholic who's that we were talking to the other night? And he was talking about how he didn't think determinism. Explain, even in physics, you can show that there's things that we can't predict beforehand because we don't have the ability to process that. But that doesn't negate determinism. It's not the same thing, It's so with determinism, we can take any point. We can take this point right now and trace all the way back to the Big Bang. That's determinism, But to say that we have, maybe we could at some point have the processing power to say, okay, what's going to happen in 30,000 years will be this, this, and this. We don't have it now. So
No,
I don't even
and this is
go into that realm of like worrying about it.
In particle physics, you know, we've gotten down to what's it called? We got their quarks, gluons, but then below that we have the I have to reference my note here. I always forget this term. It's a weird term for me. And it's something where is it? I have a whole
on the
map.
Planck scale.
I have
we
a
got
whole
it.
map of it. It's from this particle zoo essay. I posted it in physics, but
Is it
the
important?
preon. Yeah, Christ, I couldn't think of it. The preon, but the preon. When you as our instruments start improving, we're starting to see more and more and more, and you know, innovations in particle physics like the Large Hadron Collider has given us the ability to look deeper, and detect deeper. And then people will eventually say, okay, well, what are the components of the preon? What are the components of the components of the preon? What are the components of the component? We thought, like, I think it was I forget who it was, but they were certain that, you know, an atom couldn't be split, and that atoms were the kind of the singularity,
fundamental.
the fundamental piece that cannot be split, and it's just not.
It just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Well, it's
what's interesting is it kind of is on the scale what I'm hearing, and I've had this discussion a few times, which is, you know, science doesn't say what is true. Like, we don't say, there you go, now we're done. We continue our investigation, right? We continue to ask questions, and so that gives us kind of this scale or this pathway for us to keep on. But what's interesting is when you look to people who have religion, they say, well, I have something with absolute knowledge. Yes, but it's not going to help you with reality, because there's miracles and other ways where your God will just change everything you know in a heartbeat. And so really you have no knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you take something like that and say, you know what it is, you're not going to investigate it anymore. That's the death of knowledge, you know, where that's the death of discovery. You know, I mean, really is truly heinous.
Look, there's another aspect to this too, though. If we look on the other side of the spectrum, we don't want to use our intellectual real estate to have the greatest minds that we have. We don't want them to be chasing their tails on something that hasn't lent anything to any real demonstration for all time. Like, I want to I want to see more of these wars to come up with X equation or this thing that we know is there. We just can't see it yet. It's like, okay, you've given us the fundamental properties of this. I see we're spending a lot of money, resources, intellectual resources as well, continuing to look for this thing. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about right now, but string theory, string theory. There's a damn good reason that most of the physicists I very much respect have after, you know, string theory had its initial build and its presentation. Okay, let's wait and see. I just want us not to waste time on things that there may be some more simplistic answers to.
I always think about discoveries like by like Faraday, right? So what he did is he basically just like wrapped metal around or wrapped copper around pieces of metal, ran electricity through it.
Right.
And what did he notice? He was trying all these different things, and then one day he set it down in a pile of metal shavings, and he realized, oh, it made this specific shape. So he inadvertently discovered the electromagnetic field.
Right.
Now, when he did that, it wasn't used for a long time. But now that discovery is completely, well, our entire society is completely built off his discovery, which is really interesting. Because to me, that's the way I look at what they're doing with the LHC. So we're not getting anything out of it that's used right now. They're just discovering things. But you know what? In like 100 years, what we'll be able to take this information that they learn from these experiments and then be able to engineer something out of. That's where I think there's interest.
Well, if you can imagine if the Large Hadron Collider actually at one point shows us how to, from a particle level, to essentially snap our fingers to have a machine that can pull particles together and basically create anything you want. Then essentially we're printing. Yeah. Then essentially we're printing food.
Exactly.
Right. Like you're solving a lot of problems. You're printing new beings into existence. You're printing whatever you want. You're printing clones. You're printing, you're printing new films. Like, you're printing new art. It's a crazy thing to think of, like I guess you would call it maybe like a new and improved particle engine for your home. It is now 4 inches by 4 inches. You can print anything 4 inches that you could imagine.
It's like, have you ever played Fallout? Like all the commercials in Fallout.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Pangburn, play me chess.
Oh, yeah, we can have a chess game, sure.
Pangburn! That's what I just do every time I open up my chess.
Cool, and I guess you're gonna pop away for about 10 minutes. I'll be right back. But if you're still on, I'll play a game with you after that.
Cool. Sounds good.
I just need a break. I need someone to kick my ass real quick.
Oh, Grim, you should check out this track that Travis wrote, man. You should can you stream that, Trav?
I don't. Will it come through?
I think you'd have to stream it from the program itself.
Oh, okay. Right? Well, I'll be releasing the what's it called, the lyric video really soon here. So,
nice.
So I'll share that. Yeah. All right, ready?
All right, I'll be right back, guys.
Grim.
Cool, please. I got you, bud. There you go.
Let's see. There we go. Prium.
40 seconds.
It's on you. Or did you move?
Oh, no, you're right.
Mm. Okay.
I'm used to you going first as white.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that was.
Hey, bud, just finishing up a stream. I'll call you right back. Okay.
What's up?
Oh, I was just talking to my buddy. He called.
Oh, okay. I was like, you're really low when you're talking to me. I got my music going.
Okay.
I wish I could like do work and then there was like a notification that's like, hey, it's your move.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a feeling you would do that.
Da 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 da. All right.
I had a feeling. That little whistle just reminded me of a song called Jimmy's Song. Such a good song. Band called The Manual to Feel the Fear. Jimmy's Song.
You mentioned you play guitar?
Yeah. Guitar, drums, keyboard.
Cool.
Some vocals. As expected.
Interesting.
It was a 2-for-1 deal I couldn't pass up. Is it me or there used to be a rule where if the pawns were side by side, like what I'm talking about, like on the D4 E4 line, that your pawn would move sideways diagonally, taking the pawn next to it.
The pawn would move sideways?
No, it's not sideways, but diagonally. So like my E4 pawn would go to D5, and it would eliminate your D4 pawn.
Oh, the passerby. Yeah, there is one rule, but I think it only refers to a certain stage of the game or a certain line. I can't remember. But this definitely would account for it, I think.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, some master that I was playing with who was teaching me some stuff on a cruise line, he did that, and I was just like, what was that? And he named what it was. But
yeah, and it was interesting. I was like, huh, that's kind of pretty fucking clever. Take. I would do that. Yes. See you with many options and me with little. This sucks.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Right. Yes, son. Yeah. What is this?
Slime.
Oh, nice.
We made some.
Made some slime.
Talia and Mommy.
Oh, that's pretty good slime. Good job.
It wasn't me. It was Mommy and Holly.
Yeah. Take it to the table, all right? And wash your hands when you're done, please, as well.
Oh, right.
What are you doing, Pangburn?
It's okay. It will all be over soon.
Right? I knew I should move my bishop to counter. No, won't be over soon.
Yes, yes.
Here comes the check. I feels you, sir. I feels you. But I don't stay woke like that. I did not see the pawn move. It kind of cost me on my strategy.
Damn pawns, eh?
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah, sure.
He's going for my rook. Really? Sacrificial lamb. Interesting.
GG.
Yeah.
Scott, I have
I was trying to
to.
move my rook over to your thing. I was trying to move my rook to F1 so I could just keep that
I got to deke out for a
horse
bit,
going and then
guys, but I'll be back.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Peace out.
Later, bud.
All right, guys. Oh, Grim, you owe me a big defeat one of these days. Oh, that was fun. All right, thanks for tuning in. Those of you who checked out the Pangburn Hangout. Demon Heart, I see you said, do you believe in God? No, I don't believe God claims have been demonstrated to be true, to warrant belief. They haven't been demonstrated. Anyways, it's been the Hangout today. We got into a lot. It was nice. Bruce stopped by. And as always, let art and science inspire.